I've swapped my daily tech for some of the best tech from the 90s, and today we're going to review these items to see just how good they really are. The 90s saw the beginning of a whole new industry, a world where we could be easily contactable by mobile phones. In fact, it was in 1992 when 22-year-old Neil Papworth from here in the UK was tasked with developing a messaging service for Vodafone, who sent the first ever SMS message. And do you know what the first ever SMS message said? Merry Christmas. So by the time the Nokia 3210 came out in 1999, most of us already knew what a smiley face emoji looked like. Had already figured out how to awkwardly press buttons 4 times to get a single letter. And do you remember when texts cost 10 pence each? And you were limited to the number of characters you could send. I have to say that just holding one of these phones in my hands brings me back to all the nostalgia when I had one of these in my teenage years, like riding the bus to school, texting girlfriends, playing games. And because this is where mobile gaming became a thing, because in 1997 Nokia introduced Snake to the world on the 6110, and by the time it came to the 3210 and 3310 in 1999, the world was already going wild for it. I remember sitting on the school bus and my entire journey would be consumed by how far I could get in playing this simple game where you use the phone's keypad to go up and down and left and right, eating pixels as you go, and for each pixel the snake would get a pixel longer. Now repeat this until you turn into a giant winding snake and end up crashing into yourself, and off you'd go again and again and again. Now Snake was such a big hit that it was the only game that people I knew spoke about. Yeah, there were other games such as Memory or Rotation, but nobody cared for those. Snake was absolutely where it was at.
The 3210s and Nokias in general actually were known for one other thing: their astonishing resiliency. Drop one on the floor and all you do is just, well, go pick it back up again, dust it off a bit and pop it back in your pocket. Nothing to worry about.
And if none of that brings back your childhood memories. But 90s tech wasn't exclusively about mobile phones. Introducing the latest in home computing, the Apple iMac G3, released in 1998. Here in this Bondi blue color, we have a 233 megahertz G3 processor, a whopping 128 megabytes of memory, and a 4 gigabyte hard drive. This thing absolutely flies. And whilst we wait for that, if you aren't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. It is totally free, and you can always unsubscribe if you hate me, but I'd love to be able to prove to my friends that this is a real job. And for every person that subscribes, that dream just gets that little bit closer. And like I said, it costs you absolutely nothing and means absolutely everything to me. And maybe once you've done that, this thing might actually have finished booting. Come on. We are running Mac OS 9.2, introduced by Apple on October the 23rd, 1999, as the best internet operating system ever. And I'd love to test that out, but I can't actually launch any app other than some Adobe apps. So I guess I'm just going to use this to get a little bit ahead of myself and write my very first YouTube video, ready for when YouTube gets created in 6 years' time in 2005. Oh, the nostalgia. This is so good. It is crazy how much has changed over the years. There is no spotlight search, which we're all used to today, but just using this computer brings back so many memories of like the music classes I took, the days of running programs like Cubase to write music tracks and then export them to like zip disks and mini discs. This is such a nostalgia trip to me. This is really, really fun. I love the colorful look of the Mac. You know, that's something that Apple have only recently brought back out again. Keyboard, the mouse feel, it all feels just so familiar in my hands. And okay, wait for how quickly this thing shuts down. Ready? Let me just not save my work. Okay, how quickly this thing shuts down. I'm gonna shut down in 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, and it's off. Computers in this year don't even do it that fast. It is crazy. Speaking of music, this is the Sony MiniDisc player, and when speaking to many of my friends, many seem to skip out this era of music which fell somewhere between the famous Sony Walkman, the CD Walkman, and the rise of the MP3 player, which of course Apple dominated in 2001 with their iPod. But the MiniDisc format really intrigued me. The format felt light years ahead of cassette tapes and CDs, and it felt really cool and satisfying to have these kind of computer-like cartridge disc things that would slot into your your mini disc player as you close the door. Now, they allowed for listening to higher quality audio through these, with admittedly still not very high-end quality headphones. And you could also record your own music onto them multiple times, unlike the majority of CDs available, which only allowed you to record onto them once. But mini discs also provided one huge benefit over the older cassette tapes: the ability to record music from another device with an optical cable. Now, using an optical cable, you could record a CD to a mini disc, and it would automatically detect when the next track was playing and write that to the mini disc too. So record a Limp Bizkit album from 1999, you could just plug in one cable, hit record on the mini disc player, and then hit play on the CD player, walk away. And you'd only have to remember to name all the tracks after you were done manually. It was the rise of this format which to me really marked the start of portable music. Now, unlike CD players, tracks wouldn't, skip and jump as much as they would on CD. Like, do you remember that? Tap or bump a CD player and it would lose its place, or maybe even start the track from scratch again. And it is hard to put a finger on it, but carrying around the little plastic cases with all of your discs and music on them just felt cool. Until one birthday where I saved up a lot of my own money and I was rewarded with one of these, the Creative Labs DAP Jukebox. Now, this thing had a huge 20 gig stored on its hard drive, which could hold over 340 hours of CD quality music. Now, yes, it was fairly big in comparison to my mini disc player. It was about the same size as a regular portable CD player, but it could hold so much more. Now, I remember hooking this thing up to my computer and uploading hundreds and hundreds of music tracks, like albums and rare B-sides, basically whatever I could find from the likes of Napster and LimeWire, essentially filled my creative jukebox up with all of the music which shaped my young self. Now, it is unfortunate that this one I brought here, well, it didn't work. It did actually boot up the first time I got it, and when I came to turn it on a second time, it just didn't. Now, this thing meant that you no longer had to carry around a wad of CDs or mini discs and no choosing which 2 or 3 you wanted to bring to school with you that day. Now, I could carry around my entire collection on one device. Yes, it did still suffer similar issues to CD players and mini disc players where it was jogged a bit too hard because of, the spinning disc inside. Yes, the headphones we have today didn't live up to what I wore in the 90s, but this Creative Labs DAP Jukebox is the biggest reason that I didn't jump on the hype from the Apple iPod. Because why would I? This thing worked with my Windows PC, it had all my music collection on it, it was portable, and I didn't need anything else to replace it. But the fun didn't stop there. Because after school and at the end of each day, I'd come home, park myself on the nearest sofa, and spend the next... Wow, that's nostalgic. Wow. Nostalgic. Too many times. And I would spend the next 8 hours playing the best of the best when it comes to gaming, and that was undoubtedly the PlayStation. Released in 1995 with stiff competition from the N64, I was very, very much Team Sony here. With games like Gran Turismo, a game I put countless hours and probably days and maybe even weeks into progressing through, to Ridge Racer, another racing favourite game of mine for different reasons, to one of my favourite beat-em-up games that I still enjoy to this day, Tekken. And Yoshimitsu was always my favourite, or Jack, where you could win by just... And for each game, your progress would be saved to one of these, a memory card. This PlayStation memory card holds just 128 kilobytes of data. Now, over time, this did become problematic, so you would end up owning multiple memory cards and then swapping them out depending on the games you were playing. But you'd have to wait until the PlayStation 2 comes out, 5 years later, still with memory cards, but they would be able to hold a huge 8 megabytes of data instead. Now, the controllers on the PlayStation were pretty revolutionary as well. For the first time ever, we had a comfortable controller to hold and could utilize more of our fingers by using the 4 shoulder buttons here, which were of course perfect for driving games and shooting games, which we still see to this day. Now, fun fact, did you know that the Japanese PlayStation controllers were actually made 10% smaller than the European and North American models? It was because the average person in Japan had smaller hands. I never knew that. The PlayStation controllers, though, were a far-fetched from Nintendo's interpretation of a comfortable controller with their awkwardly shaped N64 controller. I dread to think how many hours I've put into games on this console. And it's been really incredible to see how far games have come since. I always remember hammering the button to get through, skip through all the menus. Come on. I just remember saying to my friends at the time, like, look at these graphics, they are so amazing, because for the time, they were truly next generation graphics. Now,
I can only imagine what the future of gaming looks like for us now and to our kids who are growing up with today's modern generation of consoles, setting the standard for them, much like these consoles did for us.
Yeah, okay, cool. Thanks very much. See you later. Cheers, bye-bye. Still works to this day. So which era should I do next? Should it be the 80s, the 2000s? Let me know in the comments down below, and from everyone here in the team, have a very, very Merry Christmas. Goodbye.